Hidup ini perlu lebih dari sekedar bertahan. Hari esok harus lebih baik dari hari ini. Gimana mau naik jabatan kalau selalu dianggap gak mumpuni? Andaikan ada cara yang lebih mudah untuk ningkatin keterampilan. Keterampilan harus terus diasah. Belajar tidak lagi kenal batas. Jelajahi kursus untuk tingkatkan keahlianmu. Tingkatkan karir, raih masa depan. Hidup ini perlu lebih dari sekedar bertahan. Hari esok harus lebih baik dari hari ini. Gimana mau naik jabatan kalau selalu dianggap gak mumpuni? Andaikan ada cara yang lebih mudah untuk ningkatin keterampilan. Keterampilan harus terus diasah. Belajar tidak lagi kenal batas. Jelajahi kursus untuk tingkatkan keahlianmu. Tingkatkan karir, raih masa depan. Hidup ini perlu lebih dari sekedar bertahan. Hari esok harus lebih baik dari hari ini. Gimana mau naik jabatan kalau selalu dianggap gak mumpuni? Andaikan ada cara yang lebih mudah untuk ningkatin keterampilan. Keterampilan harus terus diasah. Belajar tidak lagi kenal batas. Jelajahi kursus untuk tingkatkan keahlianmu. Tingkatkan karir, raih masa depan. Hidup ini perlu lebih dari sekedar bertahan. Hari esok harus lebih baik dari hari ini. Gimana mau naik jabatan kalau selalu dianggap gak mumpuni? Andaikan ada cara yang lebih mudah untuk ningkatin keterampilan. Keterampilan harus terus diasah. Belajar tidak lagi kenal batas. Jelajahi kursus untuk tingkatkan keahlianmu. Tingkatkan karir, raih masa depan.
Hello, good morning to those of you joining from Indonesia, and good afternoon to everyone here in Australia. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Riyandi Laksono. I'm a trade economist at Catalyst and your co-host for today's webinar, which is supported by Catalyst and carried out in partnership with Equity Economics. Catalyst is a business development program backed by the Australian and Indonesian government. It aims to strengthen economic ties between the two countries by bolstering trade, investment, market access, and skill development. Through our webinar series, we are pioneering a new trade frontier, which focuses on the care economy, including today's topic on healthcare. We recognize care sector's global significance and also its heavy local impact. This sector has large untapped potential and is often carried by women. This is the second webinar of the series, where we will discuss healthcare opportunities in Indonesia and Australia. It's very fantastic to have returning participants and also a warm welcome to those of you that join us for the very first time. Our discussion today will be divided in three parts. First, Amanda, my co-host today, will kick off with a brief contextual presentation about healthcare, and then we'll have two moderated panel sessions featuring our four speakers. The first session will explore collaborative healthcare opportunities between Australia and Indonesia, and then we will expand the discussion to include technological opportunities in healthcare. We'll then have a brief Q&A session which feature questions from all of you, our audience. We encourage you to ask your question and share your comments in the chat box at any stage. We, the co-hosts, will incorporate as many of these questions into the Q&A session. For translation service and other queries, please also use the chat box, and our moderators will assist you soon. Remember, today's session is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the Catalyst website and YouTube for sharing with others. Now, let's dive into our topic. Please welcome my co-host, Amanda Robbins, the founder and director of Equity Economics. With a mission to empower women in economics and foster inclusive models of growth, Amanda established Equity Economics in 2013. With over 2 decades of experience in economic policy, she's held senior positions in the Australian government, including the Federal Treasury, and has advised governments across the Asia and Pacific. Amanda's global expertise includes roles with the World Bank in DC and as Deputy Director of the Australia-Indonesia Partnership for Economic Governance, which is based in Jakarta, and as an advisor to the PNG Treasury. Amanda, the Zoom is yours.
Terima kasih Mas Riyandi and selamat pagi semua. As Riandi said, I'm Amanda Robbins, and I am going to provide a little bit of context to this discussion, which is wonderful to have and it's fascinating to see the diverse and disruptive actors that are participating in the health sector and part of this dialogue between Australia and Indonesia. So we have some slides to share with you today. And for those who joined the first webinar of this series, so there's 3 in the series. We did aged care initially. Check it out on YouTube. It's really an interesting initial discussion. Today, we're launching into another part of the care economy, which is around healthcare opportunities between Indonesia and Australia. So let's go to the next slide. And really, just for some quick context, the real question is, why are we talking about the care economy, particularly in relation to a bilateral trade relationship? It's an unusual topic, but it's a really interesting one. And it's actually a really important one if we want to truly achieve the ambition of IA-CEPA and Catalyst, which is to deepen the economic partnership between Australia and Indonesia. And that's because the care economy is a huge and critical part of our economy, both in terms of economic development and growth, but also in terms of the critical outcomes for human well-being, whether they're educational or employment. And so that's because the care economy, it really is a broad definition. It really endeavours to capture all of those goods and services that are necessary for physical, social, mental and emotional well-being, often for dependent populations such as children or the elderly or the ill and the disabled, but it also goes to the care economy and the support we provide to all of our citizens. So it's a broad group and hence why it's a large potential part of the economy. It's also really critical because Catalyst as an investment between the Australian and Indonesian governments is deeply committed to more inclusive economic models of development. And the care economy is both a huge provider of health services for all of our citizens, but a major employer and source of economic participation for women. Finally, the reason we're talking about the care economy when we're talking about trade is that it is a bilateral trade and investment opportunity that is unlocked by IA-CEPA, but it is significantly below its economic potential. So let's talk about a little bit what is the economic potential that we're having this discussion for today. So we'll go to the next slide. The reason when we talk about the care economy, today's topic's focusing in on healthcare, is because arguably healthcare is actually the most advanced of the care sectors in terms of bilateral trade. And that's because there has been some existing trade and investment in various aspects of the health services. And we'll hear a little bit more about that today. But the reason when we think about market investment and trade opportunities, we're thinking about healthcare is because if you look at any of the factors in the healthcare market of Australia and Indonesia, there's some critical points that would lead to market opportunities. Costs are rising, but demand is also rising at the same time. And there is also a huge amount of change happening in the sector, which leads to a huge amount of opportunities. There's also a really favourable policy environment, which was enabled by the Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, IA-CEPA, which provides some opportunities to really imagine what the trade relationship could look like, including in healthcare. So in particular, IA-CEPA actually provides a commitment to allow majority Australian-owned large hospitals in Indonesia in hospital pathology and in various medical and dental clinics. For the first time, this is a new economic trade opportunity. In addition, IA-CEPA gives really major opportunities for investment in Indonesia's education market, which is critical to address some of the health workforce skills and training needs that we'll talk about today. Finally, the Indonesian and Australian companies both have huge opportunities to benefit from the designated Health Special Economic Zone, which the government of Indonesia has established in Sanur, Bali. And we'll hear about an example of organisation and companies taking advantage of the Special Economic Zone today. So the next slide. This presentation really is intended to just give a very quick snapshot of the Indonesian and Australian healthcare markets. Some of this will be really familiar to you, and some of it really is just to emphasise the economic opportunity that exists here. In the case of Indonesia, this is clearly a huge and growing healthcare market, population ageing, rising incomes, and in particular, the government of Indonesia's significant commitment to attaining universal health coverage make this a major healthcare market and opportunity. Healthcare expenditure in Indonesia is actually expected to triple by 2040 for a range of reasons, including ageing. The universal healthcare program that the government of Indonesia has set up is actually going to become one of the largest in the world, covering over 200 million people. For an Australian audience and healthcare business, there's few markets that can match what Indonesia's healthcare needs are going to be. And GOI is already a major investor in primary healthcare. It's a major priority. It's an area that Australia has advanced services in primary healthcare, an area for deep bilateral trade and partnership. Let's go to the next slide. In addition to that huge investment that the government's making, it's also really important to understand that Indonesia's private healthcare market is also growing. With a growing middle class and upper class, there's huge willingness to pay for quality healthcare. And there's lots of statistics here, but one that I think is really interesting and important to recognise is that more than 1.2 million Indonesians collectively spent more than $2 billion annually on healthcare overseas, mainly in neighbouring Singapore and Malaysia. We know in Indonesia, they'd love to see those healthcare dollars spent domestically, partly to keep that income in the domestic health market, but also to support the growth and development of Indonesia's healthcare market. Australia has a role to play in supporting that. There's also major investments going into primary healthcare in Indonesia, and skilling the workforce as a priority. Again, this is something we'll see a similarity in Australia's case, but it's also a major opportunity for collaboration and investment. So we'll go to the next slide, which is really just a quick snapshot of the Australian healthcare market, which many of you will be familiar with, but there's some similar things. Even though the markets are quite different in terms of size and structure, there is actually some similarities in the drivers of growth. The baby boomer generation in Australia is really driving robust growth. If you're interested in exploring that topic further, check out the first webinar on aged care. Australians are willing to pay significantly for out-of-pocket for health extras. Whether they're willing or want to, given we have a Medicare model, is up for debate. But the fact is that nearly 45% of Australia's population has private health cover and are paying private extra cover. So there is a large market with incomes for significant health expenditure. There's a growing skilled workforce, which is a critical priority in the case of Australia. And it's why IA-CEPA's particular focus on skills and collaboration in skills and training presents real opportunities in the healthcare market. The other thing to note for the Australian healthcare market, which is similar in Indonesia, but where there is really rapid change, is around innovation and digital technologies to provide and address healthcare services. It's an area where there is a range of opportunities for Indonesia and Australia that we'll talk further about today. So if we go to the next slide, we really wanted to put on the table what are some of the opportunities that we might be talking about and thinking about. So if we go to the next slide, we'll hear from our speakers today about what opportunities they're already pursuing and that are already actively taking place between Australia and Indonesia. But some other areas that you might want to start thinking about for your businesses are healthcare infrastructure. Infrastructure is a traditional area where trade and investment does take place. It's about driving that infrastructure investment forward in the healthcare sector. There's opportunities for treatments for age-related illnesses, which is going to be a major pressure on both countries' health systems. And we heard about the Bali Special Economic Zone, which provides opportunities for collaboration and investments and benefits to health organisations and firms through investment in wellness tourism, but any number of other health and other investments. Just as an example, if we go to the next slide, Catalyst is already working to support businesses in this space. If we go to the next slide. A major joint venture, which is a huge success and a real credit to Catalyst, but also to the businesses involved that are really at the forefront of trying to deepen bilateral trade and investment in the healthcare sector. So this was a joint venture between Aspen Medical International with Doctor and Indonesian construction company PT Jasa Sarana. They're aiming to deliver over 23 hospitals and 600 community clinics in West Java. And with the support of Catalyst, we're seeing those hospitals get underway. There's other joint ventures, including a flagship hospital in Makassar that's being supported through the Catalyst program. So if your organisation has similar opportunities that they're exploring, reach out to Catalyst and see if there's a way that they could work to support your bilateral opportunity. If we go to the next slide, there's a few more other areas that we think there's potential for further healthcare trade and investment, not least of all workforce training and education. Catalyst is really leading the way on trying to advance skilling and training opportunities between Australia and Indonesia. We already know education is a major export market bilaterally, and there's much more that can be done and that is being built on right as we speak, particularly in the healthcare sector. In development, we often talk about standards and quality assurance alignment to try and harmonise different components. And in healthcare, there's huge potential for that for Australia and in Indonesia. And finally, digital healthcare solutions. There's real trade and investment opportunities here. And I encourage you to check out the new report that Catalyst has produced on medical devices, assistive technologies, and the huge supply chain opportunities that exist between Australia and Indonesia to explore that market. So there is one further slide, but I might just pause there, and we're going to go to a video to share with you some of that work that I just spoke of, that really is showing how Catalyst can support industries in Indonesia and Australia to address the healthcare needs that we just spoke about in both countries. The video explores some support that is going to an Australian registered training organisation in collaboration with Pintar in Indonesia on care economy micro-credentials. So this support is actually engaging Australian universities and colleges to develop short courses in Bahasa Indonesia. These courses will be hosted on the Indonesian platforms, Pintar and Bina Centre. These short courses, known as micro-credentials, are tailored to the Indonesian market with subject areas that include infection control, medical administration, and mental health. Areas we know that there's huge need and huge potential for the workforce to expand. So with that, let's take a look at some of the work Catalyst is doing.
Hidup ini perlu lebih dari sekedar bertahan. Hari esok harus lebih baik dari hari ini. Gimana mau naik jabatan kalau selalu dianggap gak mumpuni? Andaikan ada cara yang lebih mudah untuk ningkatin keterampilan. Keterampilan harus terus diasah. Belajar tidak lagi kenal batas. Jelajahi kursus untuk tingkatkan keahlianmu. Tingkatkan karir, raih masa depan.
All right. Thank you, Amanda, for your insightful presentation. It really shows us how large untapped opportunities are in this sector, as well as the potential economic and social benefit to our country's increasing collaboration, which is provided by IA-CEPA. Let's get into our first panel session, which is focused on how Australia and Indonesia can collaborate in healthcare in Indonesia, with a spotlight on the Bali Health SEZ or Kawasan Ekonomi Khusus. Our speakers will first give a short 5-minute presentation on who they are, their operation, and their thoughts on healthcare in Indonesia. Then Amanda and I will put some questions to them to answer. Please welcome our first speaker, Ibu Kumala Dewi, the Indonesian Country Manager and Business Development Alliance Director for Cochlear Limited in the Asian Growth Market. Since 2015, Cochlear Limited, an Australian company and now a global leader in hearing implant devices, has partnered with Kasum Hearing Center in Indonesia to provide accessible hearing health services. In 2024, collaborating with Kasum and Mitra Keluarga Hospital and supported by Catalyst, Cochlear aims to establish a center of excellence in Jakarta. Prior to joining Cochlear, Ibu Kumala served in leadership roles at Johnson & Johnson Indonesia, PT Novartis, PT Abbott Nutrition Indonesia, Sari Husada, and Tanabe Indonesia. Ibu Kumala also has a master from University of Melbourne, another Australian connection. Welcome, Ibu Kumala.
Okay, thank you, Mas Tiandi, for the great wonderful introduction. Yeah, indeed, there's always a connection between Australia and Indonesia, yeah, Mas. Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Kumala from Cochlear. A little bit about me. I've been in medical device and healthcare company for 24 years, so it's quite some times. And thank you, Catalyst, for having me today. It's an honor to be here in this forum. As a start, okay, let me provide you a little bit a brief, an overview about what is Cochlear Legacy. May I see my slide, please? Thank you. Yeah, so Cochlear is a medical device company which is providing implant. It's our innovative product. Is not limited to implant or cochlear implant device, which is there are two part of the device. One is inserted an electrode in our cochlea, and the other one was on the outside of the head. And the other, our innovative product is BAHA, bone conduction, pen and cord conduction hearing aid. Our headquarters is located in Sydney, Australia, which is next with Hearing Health. And our research center, it is spread out throughout the world, not limited to 100 research centers, collaborated with top university across the world, but also we have also several manufacturing plant around the world as well. This is a real global company. And as we are speaking today, we already have more than 750,000 people who has severe and profound loss. And we are very proud to present and ensure you that our reliability report conducted found that we have 99% implant reliability, and we are the #1 reliability highest level among the players. So we are very proud about the innovative product and also how we can support people around the world, not only in Australia or in Indonesia, but around the world. Slide, please. Yeah, so if we are talking about Indonesia's situation, some people may say that hearing loss is not emergency, right? Even the severe hearing loss is not a lethal situation. So no one can have a threatening life in this situation. But if we are thinking about the future, those people who have severe or profound hearing loss, it might kill their bright future. So this is very sad, because if now we are not supposed to only thinking about being alive, but how we are thinking about being productive and also having a quality of life. And if we are talking about in Indonesia, it is a very significant challenge to help them getting treatment, because in Indonesia, the patient journey has a parallel point of contact. So for example, in this chart, I just figured it out for you that there is a long journey from the assessment, consultation, the surgery itself, and then switch on, ongoing care, and then support for life. So in each part of the journey, those patients get in touch with different stakeholders. So for example, in the initial start, maybe contact with the hearing aid store, but of course, when we are talking surgery, that's the hospital part get involved too. But after that, there always another step that need to be required so that the patient or the recipient can have the better or maximum benefit of the device. And this is a huge challenge that we have to address together, because we are not only rely on one sector, but it is multiple sectors. So next slide, please. Again, as a part of Australia-Indonesia connection, it is also one of our dedicated goals that we want to help Indonesian people to have a better services. So in Indonesia, Cochlear appointed Kasung Hearing as our sole distributor. So Cochlear helped establish what we call as a CTEC, Cochlear Training and Experience Center, in which we equip the center with all loss treatment needed. This is from the screening up to the habilitation. So along the journey that I've been sharing with you initially. Habilitation is a process of adjustment, adaptation, and learning how to utilize the medical device itself and how to live with the device. So Cochlear is not only just selling and then stop, but we also ensuring that the patient can utilize it maximally. So it kind of like, maybe you call after sale service. So yeah, which actually, this is a crucial part, how the patient can adapt and also understand and then learning how to utilize the device, living with it with them. So beyond on that, we also ensure transfer expertise from Sydney to Jakarta, and also the service itself in that CTEC it's not only limited to the audioverbal therapy, which is the technical way how the patient start to talking, because after hearing, they also learn how to talk. But it's also how to maintain and care the device, care and maintenance device. And after that, we also provide a kind of like play group therapy and parent gathering, sharing each other how to live with the device and how to cope with the daily activities, including the school. So in that center, it is completed with all the service that's needed in order to prepare the recipient to live with the society maximally. And because the name is not only just an experience center, but also the training center. So regularly, we also conduct a kind of like transfer knowledge within healthcare professional. So it's not only limited for the ENT, but also for the speech therapists, audiologists, and other like nurses and other GPs as well. So this is also, we are not only just selling the product, but we also carry along the way all the knowledge and the expertise to help the healthcare system in Indonesia also growing and building a more comprehensive service for Indonesia patient who has severe and profound loss. So there, Mas Riyadi, a brief info about Cochlear. So get back to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Kamala. I mean, it is fascinating to hear about Cochlear. It's an amazing company and an amazing health aid. It's probably timely to acknowledge those signing for us today to improve the accessibility and those that can access this webinar. So thanks to them, and probably appropriate in the context of a presentation around Cochlear. Thanks so much, Ibu. Now let me introduce our next and second speaker, Dean Kilby, who's the founder and director of Simpler Health International. With a background spanning pharmaceuticals, medical communication, and scientific consulting, Dean really brings extensive experience in metabolic disease and regenerative medicine, complex areas that I'm glad Dean is here to speak to and not others. He founded Simpler Health with a mission to promote wellness for individuals leading dynamic lives. Simpler Health is an Australian health tech firm. It is partnering with Sing Medic from Indonesia and BioCell and CETA Clinic Group from Japan to establish a cutting-edge regenerative health clinic in Sanur, Bali, catering to foreign tourists with groundbreaking immunocell therapy technology. So welcome, Dean. It's going to be fascinating to hear from you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction. Really appreciate the opportunity to contribute here to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. So my name is Dean Kilby. I'm the CEO and founder of Simpler Health Group. And, I was born and raised in Australia, if anyone is wondering why I sound like this. I'm half Filipino. That's why I look like this. I'm here to share a little bit about the commitment that we're developing in Sanur, Bali. And this really is the fulfillment of who I am as a commitment, which is someone here to help people die young as late as possible. So if we can bring up my slide presentation, I'll share a little bit about the project. So this is a life-changing, state-of-the-art regenerative healthcare facility, and you'll learn a little bit about regenerative medicine in the next few minutes as well. It really is a paradigm shift that doesn't quite fit into the current paradigm of allopathic medicine, which is predominantly driven by drugs and surgery. So next slide, please. So Simpler, for the geeks, it's an acronym. It actually stands for the sciences of immunity, metabolism, performance, longevity, and regeneration. And our commitment really is to bridge that gap between a health consumer's commitment to get well, particularly in an environment where they can't find the answers and the solutions to get well and stay well. And how do we bridge that gap with the latest advancements in clinical opportunities for people to handle their well-being issues? And the vision really is to draw that straight line through regulatory, practitioner, and patient commitments, and how do we make regenerative medicine offerings as necessary, irrefutably valuable, readily consumable, and easy to access. Next slide, please. So we've got a couple of problems to address. The first one is chronic disease, and the numbers of which are just constantly increasing. So everything from heart disease, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and the obesity epidemic, cancer, degenerative cognitive functions such as in dementia and Alzheimer's disease and vascular disease, so forth. So that's the first issue that we want to address. Next slide, please. Even if there are, however, treatment options available around the world, it's difficult often because they're cost inhibitory, or the technology and expertise doesn't exist within a particular country, or the regulatory environment doesn't allow for it, hasn't caught up to the advancements in the tech. So, you know, even if these treatment options are currently available in the world or technically possible, they're not necessarily there for people to access. This includes stem cell medicine, which is becoming more popular, and people are hearing about it, learning about it, even though they may not know much about it, and also immune cell therapy for cancer treatment. Next slide, please. So medical tourism, what's happening around the world? People are traveling to all these different locations. Not often can they vet the appropriateness of the clinic or the treatment approach or the clinician's expertise. So what we're finding is a good 15,000 Australians at least are traveling overseas every year to access medical care. Not many of them know what they're doing. A lot of them come back to Australia with complications that the Australian government has to sort out. On a bigger scale, you know, up to 2 million, it's estimated, Indonesians are traveling abroad to Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea for medical care every year. And these are the upper middle class to wealthy Indonesians that can afford the travel. And it's guesstimated that a good third of them are traveling for cancer diagnostics and treatment options. Next slide, please. So I was invited here. You see me with the president director of Hotel Indonesia Natura, which is the state-owned enterprise within the Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises that essentially owns the Sanua Special Economic Zone in Bali. And I was invited to share my vision. If I was at the helm and could put together a facility, what would it look like? What would it offer? Next slide, please. This vision was then, thankfully, supported by Catalyst, which provided the early stage capital, you know, to really engage essentially a consultancy, and Catalyst supported Simpler in the selection process of that consultancy to help do the preparatory work, including the bankable feasibility study, financial modeling, and schedule of accommodation, plus more and more, which I would never have been able to do without the support of Catalyst. So it's been absolutely imperative to the fulfillment of this possibility. Next slide, please. So these are some of the insights that we're able to gain from that work. DAI was the consultancy that was engaged, and the capital expenditure for my crazy vision is $27 million US, 6-year payback period. The addressable market, this is just the oncology market based on one of the therapeutic options, which is immune cell therapy for solid tumors, 150 billion plus globally. Just on that one therapeutic option, 42+% internal rate of return with a net present value of over $100 million US. So these were very, very useful insights that allowed us to put together a very powerful information memorandum against which we could raise capital. Next slide, please. We're able to create a PT, Simpler Medica International, which became the proponent for the bidding process to secure the land in the Sanua Special Economic Zone. And based on our technical merits and everything that we're able to put together with DAI Capital, supported by Catalyst, our proposition ranked #1. So that was very exciting for me. Next slide, please. This is an aerial view, early stage of the zone. There's a hospital there, sort of mid-left side. Just below that is the 10,000 square meters that we've been allocated. The images in the center and on the right show the new hotel hospitality environment. And I'm very privileged to say that I was the first international guest ever to stay in that environment as a commercial guest. I would have been the first, however, Garuda Airlines was delayed in my travel to Bali that day, unfortunately. But anyway, I still hold the title of first international guest. Next slide, please. So the clinical services that we'll be able to offer, and this is pertinent to anyone that has ever been alive and loved anybody that may have ever been sick. So from serious disease, we're talking about cancer treatment. I've got the partners of CEPA Clinic, which is the longest standing cell therapy clinic in Japan. They treated their first patient with immune cell therapy in 1999, 25 years ago. To date, they've treated over 25,000 patients, offered over 200,000 treatments with 0 serious adverse events. And BioXcel is our clinical laboratory partner. They're located on the campus of Kyoto University, and Kyoto University is one of the most recognized brands when it comes to regenerative medicine around the world. So we'll be able to treat patients with solid tumors. We'll also be able to bring into the Sanur environment allogeneic donor cells and engineered cells. And as that technology emerges and arises in Japan, we'll be able to deliver those treatment options immediately in Bali. Next option, please. Next slide. Along with cancer treatment, we'll also be able to treat degenerative diseases of aging using stem cells, which is really cool. There's various types of stem cell preparations that we'll be able to use, and this will impact aging, frailty, osteoarthritic joint pain, autoimmune diseases, neurodegeneration, etc. So this will have a big impact on patients throughout Indonesia in the beginnings of transforming the healthcare system, but also these treatment options will be made available to Australians and medical tourists around the world. Next slide, please. We'll have a number of other ancillary modalities to be able to treat things like neurodegenerative diseases and other issues like gut health. And we've been supported by a number of major organizations and brands that will be able to bring together in a unique context in Bali. Next slide, please. Obviously, this is all done as part of a team. It's not just me. So PT Simpler Medica International has a very interesting leadership. There's me, Professor Moss from DAI Capital as our commissioner, and very strong local partners, as well as some international leaders. Next slide, please. It's very exciting for me as a scientific geek as I get to bring together some of the best brains from around the world. Prof. Boyd, for example, in Australia, Prof. Maroon, who's the team neurosurgeon for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Prof. Goto from Japan. I mean, this really is a brains trust that has the possibility of having an enormous impact, not just in Indonesia, but the entire region. Next slide, please. More information can be found at www.simpler.health. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean, for your excellent presentation, especially for the picture in front of Mak Beng, I believe, in Sanur. So now let's move on to our panel question. And the first question is for Ibu Kumala. Ibu Kumala, Cochlear Limited has been in Indonesia for nearly a decade, and it is interested in expansion in Indonesia. Can you talk more about Cochlear's long-term goals and aspiration for its presence in the Indonesian market?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Mas Yandi. So maybe the team can help me with the slide with you, the Cochlear mission. So we have 4 important missions. Number 1, we help people hear and to be heard. So it's not only can hear, but can be heard. That's the importance of communication. And then the number two, we empower people to connect with others, and not only just connect with others, but we also ensure that they can live a full of life. And the other one is how we can help transform the way people understand and treating about hearing loss. So this is very important when we are discussing about the transfer knowledge between Australia and around the world to Indonesia healthcare professionals. And then we innovate and bring to the market a range implantable hearing solution that deliver a lifetime of hearing outcomes. So our objective or goals is not providing the device for this time being, but also for the lifetime of hearing outcomes. So this is a very trajectory and future of life goals. And if you're talking about specific goals in one sentence, Cochlear goals is how to deliver value by helping more people to hear, but also to contribute them building a healthier and more productive society. So that's answering your question. And then the last, what will be our aspirational? So number one, we would like to provide you a proven over time reliability device, because we are not speaking about this time being, we are also speaking about our long journey life in the future. So this device can help you or help the recipient along the future. And then we also would like to help driving the progress. We want to share and also embrace all the progress each other. And the last, we would like to connecting with the community. So those three is helping us that this is our aspirational. So we are not just a seller or selling device, but we also shaping a new life of those recipients and also along the community as well. Yeah, that's Mas Riyadi.
Thank you, Ibu. The next question is for Dean, and it was really interesting to hear about the scale and potential of the services and technologies that you are offering. I'm really curious to understand, because these will be in demand globally, why Bali? Was a special economic zone critical to that decision, or what informed your decision to go to Indonesia?
Well, firstly, everyone wants and ought to have an office in Bali. Why not? It's beautiful there. But really, I wasn't fishing for something or an access to break into the Indonesian market. It was really the establishment of that zone that made it possible. So for the first time, probably, this is actually going to advance the field. Regenerative medicine has been operating predominantly within the grey zone of regulatory in many countries, particularly in Southeast Asia and Central and South America. But that's all, like I said, in the grey zone of regulatory. What the special economic zone in Sanur makes possible is the translocation of regulatory approved therapeutic options from other countries that have been doing this for some time. So what Simpler brings into the zone is the Japanese technology, but also their regulatory accreditations. So this is all fully above board with the Ministry of Health. We've got full approval to offer those treatment options. Otherwise, these types of treatments would just remain in the grey zone, and they wouldn't be made available for Australians really to access in this very transparent way. So the zone also allows the registration of foreign doctors as well. So we can bring all of the world's expertise into one location. This is, to my knowledge, not seen anywhere else in the region.
Thank you very much, Dean. It's very encouraging how the regulatory simplification made in the zone has contributed to the real investment. It's very encouraging for me as an economist to see the impact of this regulation. It's so wonderful. It's basically giving a more case for the government to make another economic zones that is needed by Indonesia, right? But unfortunately, we cannot ask more questions to our wonderful panel here because of limited time, and we have to move on. But thank you for the speakers in the first panel session. Let's join me to thank Ibu Kumala and Dean on behalf of everyone for sharing their valuable time and expertise with us today. Thank you, Dean and Ibu Kumala.
Okay, so just to encourage everyone, there may be opportunities if we have time at the end to ask Ibu Kamala and Dean further questions. So please put your questions into the chat now. That would be really helpful. Now we're going to turn to our second panel session, which is where we're really going to have a broader discussion around further tech opportunities in healthcare, including customer solutions, insurer tech and fintech. So really leading edge innovations in the health sector. I'd like to introduce our third speaker, Nicole Nixon. Nicole is the CEO of Five Faces, an Australian company providing digital customer experience solutions in healthcare, primarily around the digital front door and queue management in healthcare. With a diverse background spanning the Royal Australian Air Force, entertainment, manufacturing and consulting, Nicole really brings a unique perspective to healthcare leadership. And leading a team of nearly 30, Nicole steering her Five Faces through rapid growth and is now serving 4 million Australians. Recently, Nicole discussed Five Faces' potential expansion into Indonesia on the Catalyst podcast, which you should all check out if you haven't already. You can access the episode on the Catalyst website for more insights. Welcome, Nicole. Looking forward to hearing your remarks.
Thanks so much, Amanda, and thanks for having me. I'd like to just start, I guess, just explaining where Five Faces started their journey in health. And that was back at the beginning of COVID, where we had the opportunity to work with leading health organizations during COVID. So we did everything from the quarantine hotel, the software required for that, for the visitor management. We did vaccinations bookings, we did surveillance, swabbing for staff going in and out of facilities. And we also did a lot of those on-site vaccination workflows as well. So that really led us down the path of this is, where we needed to be, and we've leveraged that and learnt a lot from that. But back in the time, we won the New South Wales Premier's Award for putting the customer at the centre. We had to work in unprecedented times of, getting things done at a very fast pace. Look, that taught us a lot, but at the peak of what we were doing in New South Wales, we were handling up to 14,000 vaccination appointments per day in any single day. And we serviced just shy of 2 million patients getting vaccinations in New South Wales during that time. So what that led for us was we decided to then productize those solutions and the learnings we had from COVID and build a very focused patient engagement platform, which we now call the digital front door. We have created a solution called the DX5 framework, which is the underlying platform of these solutions. And the reason we did that was because we realized very quickly that we needed to be able to innovate fast, and we needed to create solutions that were very scalable and very configurable for our clients. So the Five Faces digital front door is very much on the operational side of health. It's not necessarily on the clinical side. We deal with everything from patients from, communicating with the patients digitally prior to their appointment. So we're communicating with them, making sure that they're prepared for their appointment. They've got everything that they need and have that opportunity to be able to communicate with the clinicians and the administration staff prior to their appointment, because in doing that, we're able to alleviate and reduce the wait times for patients, because we've got people turning up for their appointments prepared, turning up on time and not having any of those lost appointments. And then on the day when they arrive for the hospital, prior to them coming in, they can also fill out digital forms and fill out all of that information prior to coming in. On the day of appointment, they can simply check in for their appointment using multiple different ways of checking in. It can be everything from a fully digital first approach, just like boarding an aircraft where they have a QR code on their phone, and we call it the digital passport. So they're able to, let the staff know that they've arrived and they can check in that way, or they can go to a kiosk if they want. If they don't have a mobile phone, they can go to a kiosk and check in that way and identify themselves. Or we do provide the staff the ability to assist patients with checking in via the administration console of our solution. So I guess in saying that, the solution has an administration portal, and then there is a patient-facing portal. It's a web-based solution. It's not an app, another app that people have to download, which will make everyone happy. But basically, it's there and it's key to improving the patient experience. Consumers these days are actually expecting a digital-first approach. They're no longer accepting being able to fill in paper forms or arrive and wait in a queue and not know how long that wait is going to be. So I think having and being able to communicate with the patients prior to them coming in, on the day of appointment, and when they're waiting for their appointment, communicating with them and let them know how long their wait time is going to be. We can do all of that. So we work very much in the hospital space. It's a very complex hospital system, more so than general practice area. And to do that, integrations are key. Everyone talks about interoperability with health systems. And I think this is very, very key and important when we're talking about the digital front door. In saying that, our little mantra is that we like to make complex simple. So we've built our solutions so that it is very, very configurable by the clients. So once they have the solutions implemented, they can continue to configure, create new forms, create new workflows and new rules for the staff. And that can be done and scaled across large hospitals or large districts of hospitals, and they can continue to build them out on their own. So it's very, very scalable. I like to say that as a patient, imagine if you were going to multiple different hospitals and you had to manage a very complex health situation. How wonderful is it that if you could manage all of those appointments and all of the interactions, fill out all of your paperwork, receive information about your procedure digitally instead of being handed paper or waiting for it to come via email. So that's why we've created the digital front door, and that's a little bit about what it is. In regards to Indonesia, we're in the very early stages of exploring the Indonesian market, but we are very happy to say that we've created a partnership with Privy. Privy is a leading digital identity and e-signature company based in Indonesia. So we'll be working in partnership with them, and our solutions will be fully integrated. They will be reselling us in the Indonesian market, and on the flip side, we'll also be using their e-signature solution here in the Australian market, because we've got many of our Australian customers wanting authenticated digital signatures, and we will be implementing that. So it'll be working with them very closely in that regard. They already have a very large footprint in Indonesia market, so the opportunity for them to be partnering with us and reselling our solutions is very exciting. I guess that's sort of a summary about our solutions. We are rolled out in Australia and New Zealand, around down the East Coast in some of the major hospitals in Australia. So if you want to manage an appointment, you can do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Always amazing to hear what technology can do to improve healthcare delivery and bring real benefit for society. So thank you for that. Please allow me to introduce our fourth speaker, Ibu Amiandra Suratman. She is the Regional Ecosystem and Platform Lead at 1982 Ventures, a Singapore-based venture capital firm focusing on early-stage fintech startups in Southeast Asia with a strong Indonesian presence. Ibu Amiandra is herself an Indonesian. Among 1982's investment is a health tech platform offering a range of services from checkups to telemedicine and mental health support, with potential application in the healthcare sector. Ibu Amiandra oversees strategic stakeholder relations, including portfolio companies and corporate partners. Previously, she managed strategic synergy at MDI Ventures and led sales and partnership at Innovation Factory Block 71 Jakarta, focusing on international partnership and accelerators. Welcome, Ibu Amiandra.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Amiandra. I'm the Regional Ecosystem and Platform Lead from 1980 Ventures. I think before I begin, I have some sort of a presentation today that I would like to share with you. Just a bit background about 1980 Ventures and probably a bit of a fintech landscape in Indonesia. So first of all, we are 1982 Ventures. We've been here for around 4 years now. So we just finished deploying the Fund 1, and we're now starting to fundraising for the Fund 2. Actually, it consists of 4 people. It's only 4 people based in Singapore, 2 managing partners, and 2 another representative in Indonesia. It's me and also our analyst. Probably could do next. Thank you. So we have invested in 30 plus startups currently. Most of them are actually focused on fintech sector. We invested around in Southeast Asia, all over the country in Southeast Asia for the past 4 years. And most of the startups that we are invested in is actually in Indonesia. 15 of them is actually based in Indonesia. Probably could do next. Thank you. So since we are not specifically investing in healthcare service itself, healthcare startups itself, but we actually invested in things that actually supporting the healthcare systems. So right now in Indonesia, healthcare ecosystem by 2023 is actually divided in a few category, such as e-pharmacies, teleconsultation, hospital or clinic ERP systems, beauty and wellness, and telemonitoring, on-demand healthcare, and also doctor directory and booking platforms. A few of them is actually invested by MDF Ventures, the previous place that I was in, such as Allo Dokter. I think next they are going to invest in Good Doctor as well. They're quite active in investing in few VCs that are actually in healthcare startups. It's because they're a CVC. Sorry, they're actually a CVC. So they are work very closely with the government. So yeah, okay. Next, please. Thank you. So funding activity in Indonesia since 2002 to 2023, I think is raising quite increasing quite a lot of high. So in 2022, it cost like $41 million. And then in 2023, it's $133 million. Actually, the government has already allocating 10% to the local government budget for healthcare sector. And funding activity in healthcare in Indonesia around 2002 to 2003 is actually most of them are actually startup who are based in Jakarta, and most of them is outside Jakarta, specifically in Yogyakarta and Bandung. They have quite a lot of healthcare and health tech technology. And the stages itself is actually most of them is actually the later stage. So most of the startups, most of the VCs only wanted to invest it in the later stage of startups due to the piloting and the piloting product. It's quite expensive for most of the VC. So most of them are focusing themselves to invest it in late stage actually, and also early stage, and most of them is actually debt funding. Probably next. So one of the health it's an insurtech actually. So one of the insurtech that we are invested in is actually Aman. So Amnam is an application for employers and employee to manage the healthcare system. So right now, Aman is still going on. They have been participating with the state-owned enterprises and few corporations to manage their healthcare insurance. And also, I think not much of the insurtech in Indonesia, also including the mental health issues and mental health illness into the insurance, to the insurance package. So Aman is the only one who are actually putting the mental health care into their platform. Right. I think that's all from me. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much, Amyandra. It was fascinating to see just how rapid the growth between 2022 and 23 was in health funding in Indonesia. Again, just an indication of the scale of the opportunity. So now to some questions to our panelists. First, I'd like to put a question to Nicole, and we are stretched for time, so I'm sorry to ask for bundled questions and put for a range of answers to both of our panelists. But Nicole, we're really fascinated in how Five Faces has helped with accessibility and inclusion in the healthcare sector. So really keen to hear how you've achieved that. And a related challenge we'd love to hear from you is around privacy and security of that data that you're engaging with many millions of Australians in the healthcare sector, and we know how sensitive health data is. How have you managed health data, and is that a challenge as you move into other countries?
Yeah, well, first, I guess addressing the accessibility and inclusion. I mean, that's one of the things that's the most important. And we put, in regards to our technology, accessibility inclusion is in every part of our solution that we've considered. So we want to support society's most vulnerable people to make their healthcare easier for them to access. Some examples are, like someone with a hearing impairment, it's going to be very difficult for them to call up and change an appointment or manage that. So giving that platform to be able to manage their appointment digitally. I had a beautiful experience of someone writing to us saying it completely changed their life when they were able to actually communicate digitally to manage appointments. It seems simple, but it's a game changer. Also, someone with a visual impairment, being able to easily read a letter that's been sent to them, because if we send it digitally, we can use the screen reader and it can read to them instead of them having, not being able to read the letter that comes in the mail. And someone who doesn't speak local language, the ability to have a digital solution that is multilingual. So for them to be able to choose their preferred language and be able to communicate in that way also gives an enormous amount of choice for the patients and way they communicate. And then you think about a family in a very regional area, like you're providing them with a telehealth platform, so they're able to, alleviate the time and financial pressure of having to travel to one of the cities to receive their healthcare, but they can still access those great appointments via telehealth. And one of a very simple thing is even though you're using digital, it's using empathy in the way that you communicate. So really thinking about how you say, it's not make it less transactional and really care about what you're saying, even if it's in a digital way. So we really take our time to work with the hospitals and think about how they want to communicate with their patients, remembering that the patients are probably going through the most stressful time in their life. They're feeling very vulnerable. So if you do things in a very caring way, even if it's digital and you don't have those human touch points, that's very important. So we do consider all of those different options, from hearing, visual impairments, language, accessibility, empathy in our communications. So some of the things you also mentioned, you want to talk about data and security. So some of the things you need to consider in regards to that is understanding, when creating digital solutions, is to make sure that we understand the patient's requirements. So it's very important to gain input from the patients, from the physicians, from the clinicians, but more importantly from the patients, and mapping out a day in the life of that patient. And really understanding what's going to make a difference for them when designing the digital solutions. So aligning to international accessibility standards and guidelines when designing the solutions, ensuring that the solutions are flexible across all different models of care, including virtual care. And like we mentioned before, catering for multilingual needs. Making the solutions highly usable so that the patients of different digital maturity and digital literacy can still use them, and also providing pathways for patients and not forcing patients to go down one specific pathway. I think it's still important, even if you implement a digital solution, to offer the patients more than one way to communicate, because not everyone will be technically savvy, or they might be from, you know, a certain cohort that are not comfortable using digital. So using that. So when we're approaching the creation of digital solutions and patient engagement, make sure that we use empathy and kindness, understanding the patient journey is highly likely stressful and can alleviate this stress. So we make sure that the data security is at the top of mind with all of our solutions. The interoperability with other solutions is always very carefully architected to ensure that it is. And in relation to data sovereignty for the information that we are protecting, is it can be stored, you know, onshore in certain locations. So we do ensure that it's data. The important thing to note with our solutions is we do not hold clinical data. So we do still take the time to make sure that our solutions are designed in such a way that they are secure. It's very highly sensitive information that we're dealing with. So even if it's appointments, because the patients will be sending in questions about their appointment, or we'll be sharing information with them. So we, you know, because we are dealing with that operational side and not the clinical side, you still have to be very careful. So we take that very seriously. And in sharing some of that information with the patient, it's done in such a way that it's applied in a way that's it's actually safer than doing it in person, to be honest, because you don't have paper, don't have things going via email, and you don't have, you know, people having to fill out forms that have been filled out on paper and transferring it into the clinical system, because we can do that interoperability and the information that's collected in the digital forms, pushing that back into the systems without anyone really needing to touch it. They only need to review. So yeah, it's very important, both from a technical perspective, but also in terms of people and policies. I hope that helps. I guess, sorry, some examples I guess I can use is you know, what checks need to be in place to make sure that access is secure. Like when we're working with Privy ID, people will be able to connect in with using their digital identity when accessing the system without having to give their personal information. And also, if they want to share information with their family members, we can also do that digitally as well by accessing and granting access to their loved ones if they need that support when they're going through the systems as well.
Thanks for that, Nicole. That's really helpful. And the examples are really bring home exactly how you can make this work in terms of data privacy and security. Thanks so much. Riyandi, over to you for a further question to the panelist.
Thank you, Amanda. So my question now is for Ibu Amiandra. You're talking about different types of startup that you involved with. We are interested in knowing more how to connect one sector, like the other digital sector, to the healthcare sector, right? For illustration, how do we connect this digital solution that has been going around in the fintech world to the healthcare system? For example, digitizing billing and payment processing for patients and providers. And more broadly speaking, what opportunities do you actually see for the technology or digital healthcare solution to be applied to improve access to healthcare in general? I think you're still muted, Bu.
Sorry. Okay, thank you so much for the question. Actually, well, fintech is revolutionizing healthcare, actually, healthcare in finance, offering innovative solution for both patient and providers. That's basically the aim, the goal. It's giving the streamlined billings and payments, flexible payments option to users, to customer, also improve insurance navigation, and also for providers, it's faster, secure payments, reduce administrative burden, and also fraud detection and prevention helps by the eKYC. So from my personal opinion and personal experience, back then 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with the autoimmune. And it was really tough to connect the hospital itself with the insurance that I've actually already have since years and years ago, even though, we have a monthly premiums about it. So right now we have an apps, we have quite a lot of tools that we actually can use, supported by the startups. Actually, the startups in Indonesia, for I think this year, the government is really keen to work together with the startups itself. So the opportunity in here is quite big for the startup in health tech sector itself to explore themselves. I can see that there's a lot of many opportunity for the startups in healthcare sector to work together with the fintech. Like for example, like what we have right now is Live Aman. So yeah, I think there will be like a great opportunity for both of the startups and the government to collapse together.
Thanks so much. It's been wonderful to hear from both of our panelists, Nicole and Amiyandra. Really different roles in the healthcare sector, but clearly huge opportunities that they're highly engaged in and taking advantage of. That wraps up our second panel. So a quick break and we're back for some important photos and further questions.
Thanks, Amanda. So we are now moving on to our Q&A session. But before that, we still have one mandatory things to do, which is to take the picture. So may I kindly ask all the speakers to turn on their video? All right. I'll give cue. 1, 2, 3. And then one more time, freestyle. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
I think Riyandi, you're the only one who went freestyle, so we've all been.
Oh no, only me. Oh God. Okay.
We've been out of Indonesia too long.
Again, no?
Yeah. So a couple of questions to our panelists, because it's been, there's so much knowledge and expertise. We really want to try to extract as much as we can with the remaining 15 minutes we have. So firstly, a question to Ibu Kamala. I was really fascinated to hear about the way Cochlear is set up in Indonesia. And in particular, I'm curious to understand how much you needed to change in Cochlear's business model, its engagement strategy, its materials and services to suit the Indonesian market. So for instance, you mentioned you have the Cochlear Training and Experience Center. How much did you have to change your content and goods and services for the local audience when you entered Indonesia? Mas Riyandi, if Ibu Kamala isn't.
Yeah, I think it's still freezing in my screen.
It might be over to you for our next question while we see if Ibu Kamala can unmute.
So let me ask Dean, for his interesting story in SEZ in Sanur, an interesting picture in front of Mak Beng, my favorite restaurant in Sanur. So how do you actually navigate this? I know you're mentioning the simplicity of regulation under the SEZ, but how do you principally navigate all the regulatory requirements and compliance standards, both locally, domestically, and also internationally, for offering your medical treatments to foreign patients? Can you tell us more about your story on how to navigating things?
Yeah, I don't have a direct answer, the best way to do it, but it's getting figured out. There are specific health regulations designed for the zone, and which is distinct from the rest of the country, and it's very much self-regulated. So the selection process is based on the best technical partners that are bringing regulatory approved therapeutic options from around the world. So I'm leveraging very heavily on the Japanese expertise. The Japanese regulatory structure for regenerative medicine was set in 2014, where Prime Minister Abe changed the policies that allowed these cell therapy options to be made available for people after phase 2A clinical trials. So this was really to counter the sort of expected impact that the aging population in Japan would have on the healthcare system. So, we're doing whatever we can to bring those sorts of regulatory structures and accreditations from Japan into the zone. But it's very new and it's all getting worked out, and we'll do it in full communication and transparency with the Ministry of Health. So I think that's the key.
Thanks for that, Steen. There's no doubt unlimited complexity to regulation in any health market, but certainly as you navigate Indonesia's, and it sounds fascinating the way you've adopted the kind of standard that Japan regulatory model to make sure you're meeting the really high standards. Super interesting, and we'd love to hear more, but we'll revert back to Ibu Kumala, who I think we have back with the question on localization of the cochlear content for Indonesia.
Okay, so yeah. It's kind of like we cannot just one-stop action, because it is continuity and ongoing. And for example, about to ensure the excellent service. So we know that the service will be provided by staff, and how we are going to prepare the staff, it also continuously training, for example. And this training also is not just one stop, because we have to ensure the understanding and then how they deliver the service itself. So it cannot be said that just we just do the checklist without continuous monitoring. So we do the checklist, the minimum standard requirement, and after that we continue monitoring along the way how the service being delivered to Indonesia patient. I have one example. For example, in CTEC, whenever the mapper technician or the FET therapist providing the service to the patient, they always record it by kind of like CCTV. Then after that, we are monitoring again, and then we evaluating how the service being provided. So that's another continuously monitoring and also improvement along the way, because the customer need or insight is also growing and also is developing. So that's how we are catching up every time. And in terms of the service center itself, because affordability is still a big issue in Indonesia. So when we establish a service center, we also considering about the amount of the people can enjoy the service or needed that kind of service. So currently, as we are speaking, basically the service center located in the big cities area. But again, not limited to that, because we also see that there is some area, even though it's not a big province, but if there is a requirement that we have to present in there, so normally we also collaborated with the local or district provider. It's kind of like either hospital or either another hearing store. So that's how we maximize the current infrastructure in Indonesia. That's it, Amanda.
Thank you, Bu Kumala.
Oh, Mr. Andi.
Now, next question is to Ibu Amiandra. We would like to hear about the insider information from you, because you're a big players in this world, in this healthcare and digital world. So we are keen to hear from you what are the trends in the healthcare investment in the near future, and what kind of values and principles that guides the investor in this area, so that we can benefit more from more investment in this sector.
All right, thank you so much for the question. The trends right now is actually not the time for the tech takeover. So it's AI, machine learning, telehealth, mostly used for drug discovery, diagnostic and workflow improvement. That's actually in trends right now. For the past 2 years. Value-based care, basically the cost-effective and high-quality care. Digital health tools that empower patients to manage their own well-being. Because people now, like people in my age, they're usually using some kind of apps to control calories and stuff, workouts, activities, that kind of thing. It's I think there's a lot of startups now trying to create that kind of application right now. And also the chronic illness management system to support aging population. But however, in Indonesia, a digital platform, it's quite tough to penetrate. A lot of people has a mobile phone, has a lot of devices, but not many people can actually use it. So we are, as an investor, we take financial viability very seriously. Basically, we need to see the path of profitability, if I may say. I surely need to say that. With a strong business model, but having a potential growth. Also, the product that actually can tackle the major challenges, like new treatments for cancer patients, or affordable option for underserved community. So I think since we have thousands of islands in Indonesia, lots of language. Like, for example, if you're in Jakarta, and you go to Java, another place in Java Island, the language will be different. Not to mention for foreigner as well, it's going to be difficult for you to go to the clinics. It's more difficult for you to go to the clinics. So sometimes people usually ask you to go to the big hospital instead, because the language barrier might be so difficult, in certain of area in Indonesia. So yeah, I think that's all from me.
Thanks for that response. It definitely flags some of the barriers we hear about when it comes to Australian and Indonesian firms, whether it's language barriers, we've heard about regulatory barriers, but what is really exciting is to hear that each of your firms and organisations are navigating them and are actually having traction in terms of the bilateral trade opportunities. So it is possible, and that's a strong message to our audience, which actually is probably good context for a final question to Nicole. You mentioned the partnership you've formed with Privy in Indonesia. Really keen to hear, and I'm sure the audience is as well. How did that come about, and what led you to pursue that opportunity?
We've been talking to the Privy team for some time. We hosted them here in Brisbane when they were speaking and sharing their solutions in Brisbane, and we hosted them here near our office. And we've just continued to discuss the potential of us working together, because we always saw value in their solution, especially in the digital signature and with the authentication required to give that very clear authenticated signature when signing forms or when giving authority to do something. So we always thought that there was value in that. And as we explored that a little bit more, we could see that the opportunity in the market within Indonesia was, a very big market in comparison. So we have been working with them and talking with them for some time, and just recently have signed the partnership. So very happy. So we'll be coming over to Jakarta in the next couple of months to sort of pitch our solutions and coach and train and to the Privy team about what Five Faces is all about in a lot more detail. And we did engage with Catalyst. Five Faces went over to Indonesia, I think in October last year as well. So it's been a journey of a couple of years of getting to know each other, building that relationship and that trust. And I think we've definitely done that now. And our technical teams have been working very collaboratively together to work out how we can build our APIs and our solutions to bring them into one, to make it look like a seamless experience. So they're getting this beautiful experience of a digital front door, as well as the security of authentication with the Privy system. So together combined, I think it's a wonderful combined solution. Yes, but it does take time.
It's
we've
so
got there.
interesting and also great to almost conclude with an example of Privy Indonesian technology entering the Australian market, because this is definitely major opportunities for Indonesia's platform technologies and any number of developments that are happening in Indonesia to also help transform the Australian landscape and health market as well. So really interesting to hear how there's a complementarity there for both markets. Riandi, over to you for perhaps one final question.
All right, my final question will be for Dean and still related to Sanur and the beautiful place. What advice would you give Australian companies that wanting to invest in Sanur SEZ? What aspect that they need to look for at first stage? What they need to look for and what they need to pay attention into? Could you give your clues for potential investor out there? Thank you, Dean. I think you're still muted.
Apologies. Yes. So my advice would be more broadly for anyone entering into the Indonesian market is find really, really good, strong local partners that you're willing to really get into bed with for a really long time. And beyond that, manage your integrity. And, that's all you have at the end of the day is your word in the matter. And so manage that with the utmost, everything that you've got. And any time that level of integrity is getting compromised, don't be afraid to pull out. It's just not worth it in the end. So if you manage everything to the letter with the utmost integrity, then I think you'll be fine.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dean. Thank you very much. And that kind of wraps up our session for today. So thank you for everyone attending today. Thank you to all our speakers and my co-host Amanda for your time and excellent participation today. Thanks also to everyone that has joined us for listening and providing commentary. Our next webinar will be in July, which will focus on another care economy, which is the early childhood education and care. For more information, please visit Catalyst website at IA-CEPA-catalyst.org, as you can see there in your screen. And please also find us in social media. Follow us if you haven't in Instagram, in LinkedIn, and Twitter. All right. We will let you know about more details through our mailing list. So please make sure you have joined our mailing list. You will also find a short paper that provides an excellent overview of the healthcare trends and opportunities on our website. And as mentioned earlier, today's session is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube with a link provided on the Catalyst website and in our social media. So please look those and share with others who are interested. And thanks again, take care, and we look forward to seeing you again at our next webinar. Bye-bye.
Hidup ini perlu lebih dari sekedar bertahan. Hari esok harus lebih baik dari hari ini. Gimana mau naik jabatan kalau selalu dianggap gak mumpuni? Andaikan ada cara yang lebih mudah untuk ningkatin keterampilan. Keterampilan harus terus diasah. Belajar tidak lagi kenal batas. Jelajahi kursus untuk tingkatkan keahlianmu. Tingkatkan karir, raih masa depan. Hidup ini perlu lebih dari sekedar bertahan. Hari esok harus lebih baik dari hari ini. Gimana mau naik jabatan kalau selalu dianggap gak mumpuni? Andaikan ada cara yang lebih mudah untuk ningkatin keterampilan. Keterampilan harus terus diasah. Belajar tidak lagi kenal batas. Jelajahi kursus untuk tingkatkan keahlianmu. Tingkatkan karir, raih masa depan.